Hello everyone, welcome back to episode 6 of this North Pole series. Today, as you can see already, we are working on coasters. I built this one mostly off camera because I kind of did it just as a random thought, like, oh, let's put a wooden coaster at the bottom. So I didn't actually film that, but you can kind of see me working on the station a little bit. So we're going to be mainly showing two coasters today. This first one is more of a boomerang theme. Or it is a boomerang. And it's kind of like the one at Cedar Point where it has twists at the side, which I think is a super fun coaster. But I also chose it because of those two sides. They stick up pretty good, so you'll kind of see once we build the other coaster, when you're walking across the bridge, I think that it gives a really good focal point. So that's one of my reasons why I ended up choosing this one. It also has this pretty small profile, and I made it a little bit shorter as well to make it fit in this area. The theming that we're going for this one, I had this idea as I was building it because I wanted to do something that I saw another creator do, where it was just they had like these hanging tubes kind of, and they glowed, they were neon, and I wanted to do that as well. So I tried searching. Turns out it was a TMTK item, but I did find a tree called the wishing tree, and that kind of had those hanging vines or hanging things of light as well. So my idea was, okay, well, children and people make wishes for Christmas on what they want for Christmas. So my idea for the theming was this building, this coaster, is where all the wishes from around the world come and they write down, and then they get sent off to Santa. So that's kind of where this theming is headed. But right now we're just building up the building as we always do. And I'll just show you guys the building process of this. Won't show you any other details because we've seen that enough. We're starting to work on the interior, and as I said, you'll see in a second, added the foreign roof, and then we'll start adding those kind of neon little pieces in here in a second. But since this was kind of like the wishing tree was kind of the main inspiration for this, I wanted this building to seem a lot more kind of overgrown than some of the other ones that we've done. So I ended up putting more garland in here than usual, and also added some actual bushes on the ceiling, kind of sticking through, giving it more really kind of an overgrown look, and I actually really like the way that it turned out. I think it looks really cool. Now this side of the building isn't the actual station, it's part of the queue, so I was also trying to theme that as well. So I kind of used the same idea that I had for the garland hanging between the buildings, just kind of creating a little line of garland because I think they look really good. This time adding the ornaments as well, just copying that over to every single beam. And here we go, added some bushes. I chose these because they're relatively flat. They also ended up they kind of contrast the garland a little bit because they're a little bit more of a lighter green, so I think that looks really good. And here we're adding the little tubes of light, and you'll see when we start putting the wishing trees in, they do kind of look pretty similar. Adding some more of the bushes there. And here, since someone's got to write down what the wishes are, I made some office spaces, I guess, with some desks and books, just to kind of, the employees aren't working today, it's their day off, I guess, just to kind of make it seem like the area, has workers there. You can guys see briefly there, tried to fit a wishing tree in there, didn't work out, so just put a little tiny bush there, some more toy soldiers, and those trees over there on the side those are the wishing trees. So again, nice color. And you can kind of briefly see, you'll see it on the POV. When we walk through the queue, you can kind of see the ones dripping down. Just generally adding some trees, and on to the next coaster. This one was one that I knew I wanted to do from the start, and the main theme you can kind of see when I planned it out. I did a little circle there. That is actually for a snow globe. So this entire coaster, at least most of it, is going to be in a ginormous snow globe, which I think I was super excited to do. Something that I've never tried to do, and I haven't seen it done that often or at all. So again, just kind of figuring out what the shape of the building was, seeing what I could fit where, and then doing the normal stuff of placing down the bottom layer, then the bricks, and building upon that. Making sure the walls aren't too flat, added a little outskirt there, just to give the building a little bit more interesting looks. If you guys do play Planet Coaster yourself, and you struggle to make circles, because, you know, just like Minecraft, it is kind of a blocky game. There aren't like humongous circles. What I like to do is space 2 items equally apart, or just apart on a straight line. And then what you can do, you can just copy and paste it over and over again, lining up the edges so that way there's no gaps, and just doing it over and over until you connect to the other side. In this case, I had four sides, so it took a little bit less time. But you can definitely do it with just 2 and just do a whole 180, and usually you end up with a pretty perfect circle. Adding some custom stairs up to the doors, and we are off to start working on the interior of this building. Before we do that though, because it is a snow globe, I wanted this building to look a little bit more chilly and more cool, so I ended up making the bricks have some more white on them, like they were snow as well, and I had to tone it down a little bit on this side because it was just such a big wall, but just changed some of the colors on the walls to white, and I think it ended up making quite a good difference. Makes the building stand out for sure, which I don't mind. And then on the interior, what we do, because I didn't quite like the look of that either, it was a little bit too much, I just put these white panels all over the building, just kind of hide it, and I do think it kind of makes the building look a little bit bigger than what it actually is as well. To cover up the ugly roof as well, added some starry panels just to kind of, again, make the room seem a little bit bigger than what it was, so you can't see the, in theory it seemed like it goes on for farther, and also I think it looks really nice as well. Once we did that, we could start working on the actual track of the coaster. Now since we started in here, I wanted to have a little bit of a scene in here before you go out into the snow globe. Obviously because the track does need to travel a little bit, so they didn't want it to be too boring. One thing, if I could have one word to describe this coaster, I'd say adjusting. Because I spend so much time adjusting so many parts of this coaster. It's just trying to fit it in to this snow globe, even though it is pretty big. Just trying to fit it in, and also at the same time theme it as well, which is such a challenge. But end result, I think I love the end result. I think you guys will like it too. One cool aspect that I wanted to try as well that made it more challenging and more finicky is I wanted to make it a Mobius style kind of dueling coaster, and I didn't get it perfect Mobius dueling, just because it doesn't duel for the whole time. It's basically just this first part, and then they kind of go their separate ways. But they do drop at the same time, which is pretty cool. And basically, Mobius just means instead of having two coasters launch at the same time, and you can't get on you can't do both at the same time. This coaster is just one station, you get on, and then you kind of go back up. Example of this would be something like Wicked Twister at Six Flags Magic Mountain. There's a few others as well. Once I was happy with the general shape of the coaster, started smoothing everything out so I could get the first test results and see how that would go. And I kind of figured that they wouldn't be too good, but basically this coaster would kill people if I didn't change it, so that's kind of why the adjusting was just so much adjusting. It ended up having like 20 lateral G's, which probably would kill someone. So that wasn't good. So after a few more testing, and more adjusting, and some more testing, then more adjusting, and more testing, and more adjusting, and it kind of just went on and on for the entire process of the coaster of just testing and adjusting this coaster. But we did eventually get results that were good, and I did actually get it all green, which I was not expecting at first because there was quite a low excitement. But hey, it turns out this is a pretty good coaster. Once I got the coaster to an acceptable range, like the guests would actually ride it. It wasn't the best results right now at this point, but they would ride it. I'd started working on some other details of the snow globe. So I had a little border around to kind of hide the underside of the snow globe, and just kind of added a golden trim because I googled some images of snow globes. Just added that as well. And again, for both of these, in order to do the circle, just added the pieces on opposite sides and spun it around, and as you can see, works pretty well. Added some snow on top as well, just to kind of give it a little bit more of a snow globe vibe. Ended up not using that trick this time and just going manually around because the snow pieces weren't the best for this situation, so I just had to manually place them. It didn't take too long though. And then I just thought about it for a second. I'm like, wait, we don't need any of this glass down here. So I just ended up deleting that because no one's ever going to see it and you don't need it. So then I wanted to have the floor not at the bottom, obviously, because then you would not be able to see half of the scenery. So I placed a little floor down for reference and start working on the underside, which I had the idea of if this is a snow globe, where does the snow come from? So I just put a whole bunch of snowy rocks down there, so it's just like a patch of snow and the coaster is going under it, so it's like you're going through the snow, which I think is a really cool idea and also makes it for a really cool feature of the actual coaster itself. Now if you've ever done rock work, you know it's a pretty slow process, especially trying to find the right rock for the right reason and for the right task. They're all different sizes, some are too big, sometimes you gotta figure out how to make the big ones work because the small ones are too small. So it's just always a challenge to do rock work, and also you don't want to make it look too repetitive, so I always try to switch it up and rotate every rock as much as I can, just so it doesn't look, or so it looks as natural as possible. Now all the entrances, in order to make them, or exits, or whenever the coaster goes through the floor, I tried to cover it up with the rocks as well, just to make it more of a kind of seamless transition and also hide up those rough edges of the square tiles. Also using the white panels there to make the ceiling seem not bricky. So then added a few buildings off camera, but I'll show you guys this one. Did this on another building, but the coaster does go through a building on the first drop, and then this is the only other building that it goes through. But I just like having the idea of having a feature in the coaster where there's some near misses, and just theming. Basically what I did for the snow globe was make a kind of mini village within the winter village. So I did that for both the snow globe and also within the building itself. I thought the top of the snow globe was looking pretty plain, even though they kind of are, but since this is a coaster I wanted to have some detail up there, so I added some more garland and then outlined that so they weren't just like hanging from the glass. And it is kind of distracting, but I don't actually mind it that much, just kind of because it is such a small little detail, but I do quite like it. Still adding all of the festive things we've added so far. When I was building the coaster, I had no supports on at all, so I went back through and turned it back on, and some of them were kind of in the way, especially down below in the rock area. There just was this one spot that was so crowded with all of the supports, so I did have to make a couple of my own custom ones just to make sure the track looked like it was supporting and not floating. We might have North Pole magic, but I don't really want to have, like, no gravity. So going for, realistic, but still with some North Pole magic, even though that makes no sense at all. So just adding supports here and there, mainly in the upper part at the tallest, just because those were where the supports got the most annoying. Just adding them throughout, making sure the coaster looked supported. And I'm not even sure if, like anything in this game, if this would actually be feasible and would the coaster actually be safe, or would the supports actually hold it. I have no idea, but it looked pretty good, so I was happy with the results. Once we finished the supports, I also added the details within the inside of the building, and that was the last thing we needed to do for this episode. So with that, I'll let you guys enjoy a POV of all the coasters. Alright guys, that's gonna be the end of the episode. A little bit longer of one with all the POVs and all the work we did. But all in all, I think every single one of these coasters turned out great. I hope you do too. Next episode, we're gonna finish up pretty much all the buildings and do a little bit more path detail, so I hope you guys are excited for that. Now I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!